Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Elliott64, and welcome back to the RoboCast to review the second episode of BattleBots 2020. I'm joined alongside.
WorldofWoodrow. Hello, Sam.
Where's Steve? Where is he?
I think I saw him looking the other way and watching Norwalk or something. I don't know.
I don't blame him because as we're recording this is Norwalk Havoc right now. So if you're watching it in the past, yes, good choice. We've managed to wrangle someone away from watching Norwalk Havoc. Introduce yourself.
My name is Jonathan Schultz. I'm the team captain of Team Huge.
Absolute pleasure to have you on, Jonathan. I think it's very fair to say that myself and Jevan over the past couple of seasons have really gone to, love Huge for being just such an anomaly in a field of, very similar machines. You do something so different to everyone else. How did Huge come about? Talk us through it.
Yeah, so Huge, the whole lineage goes back to Carbide versus Gabriel.
Okay.
And I do want to say, I have said that into the camera 3 seasons in a row, and it's a long enough description / referring to other shows that they cut it. But yeah, it goes back to Carbide versus Gabriel, and just what if that fight happens, but I take a few hits from Carbide and then we peel the top open with a spinner. That is the design brief. That was the original idea of Huge. And then since then, it's just gone its own, just following what we think is best. It took, I think, 9 months to build the first 30-pound Huge. Me and my teammates were learning how to build robots at the time, so it's hard to build something new on top of trying to build in the first place. And then we just chased it. So 30-pounder, built Tiny Huge, went on BattleBots with it, built another 30-pounder, built another Tiny Huge, built another 30-pounder, another big Huge, a third big Huge, and I think we're like 10 deep at this point. So it's just all Huges.
You can't escape now. It's too far in.
I've been staring really hard at lifters, I should build something else, but I'm locked in at this point. So
it is interesting to it was a specific fight that made you kind of inspired to go that way, because obviously, I mean, it's fair to say that fight was one of the most spectacular things in robot combat ever. Those two were just taking chunks out of each other. It was wonderful to watch, but it was just that fight that made you think, I could do something with this. That is quite interesting.
I think I've never talked with Craig Collias, and I need to at some point. But I don't even know, because I didn't get the feeling from the show that even he expected it to be that resilient to Carbide, because it's not like it had ever fought anything like that before.
Yeah.
But it goes from an advantage of height to oh my god, that just tanked Carbide for 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Because Gabriel hits hard, but it didn't do much beyond taking the wheel off during that fight, and it's damn, if you have 3 minutes of free reign, which is what we're looking for, 3 minutes to just beat on the other guy. You can kill anybody in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The problem is when, they kill your weapon or something like that. And so that's Huge. It never dies. No matter what, the weapon is going to be there, and if you want to get in, you got to get through it.
Absolutely. Obviously, you have been in BattleBots for the last couple of seasons now. I think it's fair to say you've kind of turned some heads and made some people think, actually, this ungamely, massive robot works quite well. I mean, you've tangled with the best, and more often than not, you've actually done fairly well. I mean, okay, yes, you did get split in half a couple of times.
Yeah, it happens to, people every once in a while.
Exactly. And I think, given the circumstances, I think it was fair enough to, Ice Wave is something special, and Bite Force as well, of course. You had them on the ropes, which not many teams can say that they have.
Yep. Still waiting for the rematch. But if at this point he wants to build something that's not that exact same Bite Force, I can't say I'd blame him. It's pretty proven out, but yeah. I and probably a lot of other people would love to have a rematch, just because it's damn, we were close. But that's the nature of it. You've got to account for everything.
I was going to say, do you look back with pride at the last couple of seasons?
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard sometimes because in the moment, immediately after, the Mammoth fight and stuff, you're just damn it. But where it came from nobody, including us, expecting anything, to as far as we've gotten, to have beaten Gigabyte, to have beaten Bronco, Hypershot, 2019 as a whole, even Jasper, we were terrified going into that fight. because of how tanky it is. Like just every fight that season, they're so proud of. And compared to where we expected to come from, absolutely.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I suppose we should probably talk about the episode in general. Obviously, if you haven't watched it, go and do so. This is your small little spoiler warning, I guess. And let's crack on with the episode as a whole. So we start off with two returning teams, Shatter from last year, of course, and Ghost Raptor coming back from all the way in 2016 with the all-new design. Where do we begin with Shatter and Ghost Raptor? I thought Shatter did their job perfectly. They execute the strategy very well. You know, they got the solid hits on the spinner as they intended to do to try and break the spinner, which it worked. I think another thing that was quite interesting is I'm fairly sure that they separated those two robots. There's a very, very hard cut. When
you notice that
you can see the fire and the smoke pouring off of Ghost Raptor, and you just see, and Shatter's free. Okay, I see you, editing team. I see you. Let's score that one off on the bingo card.
They did want to note they broke the screws pretty good there.
Oh, really?
So yeah, but yeah, there was an unstick, but it's like that's how it goes sometimes. I always point out that in Huge versus Sub-Zero, there was 2 separate unsticks.
Oh, really?
That fight was stopped twice, and they're good enough at it usually that you don't notice.
I think there wasn't much getting out of this one, was there? Really?
No. Yeah, Shatter suddenly off the screws, but I mean that was Ghost Raptor was dead. Like, yeah. And I think that's what they were saying is you can see the wheels turning on Shatter, and I believe it was technically a dual unstick because Ghost Raptor couldn't move either because Shatter was on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ghost Raptor's, I guess the drive burned out. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
I believe they've said that it was their motors went, both of them. I can't remember the details exactly. They have gone to Facebook about what happened to Ghost Raptor.
I think they said specifically it wasn't lipos, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which
really rejecting Mr. Psycho, the bingo square.
Oh, god damn it!
But hey, it's new robot things. Like they said, Ghost Raptor was an all new build this year. It looked great. The weapon is, I think last time there was a lot less power behind it. This year they have one of the big, E-Techs behind it. So they mean business. But that's just new robot stuff.
Yeah, of course. And to be fair to Shatter as well, they, as I said, they execute their plan perfectly. They, and it's so nice
absolutely.
to watch them, omni wheel their way around the. It's so smooth.
It's the new floor too.
Yeah, well,
all the wheels are touching the ground for like the first time.
Very true. But it's just the way that it's like silk. It just glides around the arena. It's so,
it's so good.
Yeah, they have.
I love watching it. And then the power. I mean, that strategy of just weapon lock people with your hammer is like, it's so out there, but it's such a cool innovation on hammer bots.
Yeah,
because like especially the Kingpin fight last year, they totaled it. Yeah, they literally totaled it, and that's it looks like what they did here.
Yeah,
the Ghost Raptor team was saying on Facebook, I just had a read of it quickly, that they thought that was the end for them for this year.
Oh, wow.
They had help to get it back up and running. So,
Shatter is a fight we don't want. They are scary.
I mean, even with your height advantage, you don't fancy that.
I didn't build huge for fair fights where they can reach me. I mean, that's with BattleBots, and they're kind of choosing the fights for the regular season. They want it to be a fight that has a chance of going either direction.
Yeah.
And I respect that because it's a competition like that. But I gotta say, it's kind of nice at Norwalk when you get a fight that the other guy doesn't have a chance. Some little drum bot that can't reach the body is like, okay, we just gotta take care of business, not break, and we'll get it. But yeah, Shatter, they can reach. I think they'd only have like half a swing in it before they got to us. But, I don't want it getting tangled up on our spinner. I don't want them hitting the body. I don't like any of it. Love to watch it on the other side of the brackets.
Yeah, nice and safely at arm's reach,
Right.
I did like the fact at the start of the fight, before the fight had even started, it was almost as if Shatter was taking its shirt off, ready to fight.
I know.
You
Right?
want a piece of me? Okay.
Just ripping it off. It was great to watch. Just them slamming the floor, and then all of the nice, the really nice holographic, triangles just falling off on the floor. It's like all that hard work.
To be fair, it's how they branded their T-shirts last year. So
this is true. This is true. It comfortable
Sweep them all
performance
up
for Shatter.
and glue them back on.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, comfortable for Shatter. Ghost Raptor, hopefully we'll get to see them work a little bit better later on in the season, because it was a tough first fight for them to go against, at this point, a well-grounded machine.
Absolutely. But I really like this Ghost Raptor. I never believed much in the super long spinner because it could hit the floor depending on how they twisted themselves around, and I just felt that was kind of too much to pay attention to at once. But a Ghost Raptor with the spinners protected, you got that same huge problem. If you want to get to us, you got to get through the spinner.
Yeah,
and
I have to say,
Shatter did.
Yeah, it's certainly. I have to say, when I first saw the first images of Ghost Raptor, I just thought it looked horrible. I don't like to say that ever, but it just didn't look nice. And watching it in the arena, it looks so much better. I have to say, like when it was moving around, it looked very threatening, and I was very surprised. I shouldn't be, because obviously Chuck's so experienced at this point.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, but it just looks so much better than what I initially thought it was going to be like.
I think in the photos it was missing some bolt-on armor and stuff. They left some of the configuration things off of it. I'm not exactly sure, because as part of the COVID protocols, they split the pits into different sides that you weren't supposed to leave, and he was on the other side. I didn't really get a chance to look super close at it. But yeah, it moves quick. He's an amazing driver. I mean, you all saw what he could do in 2015 without a weapon on it, basically.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that this version, that the integration of the lifter more really paid off for them in this fight, because they were able to, when the spinner went down, they were able to do what Ghost Raptor does best and still control the battle to a degree until, obviously, big fire.
Kaboom. But it was working, though.
Yeah.
He was getting good lifts in.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have wanted to, a pure lifter versus hammer in that fight, say they never have the spinner on. I don't know who wins that. That would be a close fight, I think.
If they could get it done quickly, I think it could have been a different story. But obviously, Shatter was able just to keep hitting them where it hurt.
Absolutely.
Winning the first fight of the night. Fight 2 sees Ribbot and Tracer. For me, I've seen a few posts online about Tracer not being that good, and I think people do need to think, actually, this is a robot that was meant for next year. They've rushed it to get it ready for this year in order to help fill out the field. Ribbot at this point is now 2 seasons deep. They're a good team. They've worked. It's essentially, we've discussed it before, it's basically Bite Force underneath. It's very similar. Like, you can't. Yeah, you can distinguish between the two, but obviously, you can't take it lightly. It's a very strong competitor, and the fact that Tracer did as well as it did, getting a tire off very quickly, I think is to be commended. But in the end, Ribbot just too strong.
Yeah, and
Ribbot is tuned. It is well dialed at this point. It's the same Ribbot that it was last year, but they have it all really nailed now, and it's a force. Yeah,
the fact that they were able to tip over Tracer with a horizontal spinner is quite impressive in its own right. But Ribbot, it just seems, as you say, just very well tuned in, and it just looks a lot more sturdy now. Like, maybe it's the lack of foam legs, I don't know, but it just looks more intimidating. If a frog in the can. Yeah.
I think that's part of it, though, with the tuning on Ribbot versus Tracer being a fully new build first fight. Is getting flipped over. That's the stuff you learn from quick.
Yeah.
I don't have a doubt that next year Tracer won't be invertible. And that's the type of stuff where, they'll get there. It's good at the things it was intended to do, which is have a 60 some odd pound disc and hit really hard with it. It was quick. It's got that good armor for the the vertical spinners, that big front wall. But it was good at what it's designed to do. It wasn't designed to fight the horizontal undercutter like that.
I think they did say that they were expecting Ribbot to go in with the vert, so the fact that they kind of prepared for something that didn't happen didn't help them.
That's the Ribbot advantage.
Yeah.
I know they can swap those modules really quick, and so they'll use that to play with people. And I think this year they had 2 of them, so then they could just
Would not
kind of
surprise me.
pick.
I think somebody has said that Tracer was meant to have a Shreemekh on it, and there is a CAD picture of Tracer with Shreemekh. But obviously, with the time constraints of them having to get ready really quickly instead of waiting for next year, they didn't have time to put it on or integrate it or anything.
That would do it.
I've had a message on my in my YouTube feed and all sorts about Tracer, that they claimed that they do things differently, how they mount it all on that single bar at the front. And somebody pulled up the fact that they thought Huge did that as well. I was just wondering how much, what Huge does to hold it all in place, and how similar it is to Tracer.
So actually, I would say that's pretty unique to Tracer. I believe I want to say there's robots who've kind of embraced similar ideas. Razorback, I know, was all built around kind of that central tube that the lifter can turn around, but then they mount the different weapons on it as well. But Huge is actually, it's separate axles the whole way through.
Oh, wow.
So in past years, we would use that where the drive was a significantly thinner axle than the weapon, just to save weight. But also because if we tried to run that bar straight through the frame, it's the weight of it, and then that's where the batteries live right now. So the frame would have to get bigger, etc. If we'd run it in 2018 with a single solid axle, it would have solved some particular problems. But we've got it pretty dialed now. We upped the drive axle size for this year because Sunaway actually bent them when they hit the wheels that hard. And so now it's all the same thickness, but we're just confident enough in how it mounts to the frame that we still use that for the batteries and stuff. So yeah, it's a neat design style with Tracer to kind of do it over that one main structural element. And I think it's a good idea because a lot of robots lack that, a real core structure. But then the flip side is if you bend it, good luck.
Hope
It's not coming out.
Yeah, I hope you've got a spare one.
Yeah. Good luck cutting through it. I don't know how they would deal with that, but hey, their robot, their plan. I got my own plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a fairly decent loss for Tracer. They got a good hit off. They managed to, score a good few damage points to Ribbot, but in the end, Ribbot was just too strong. And again, showing that experience, like of doing a previous season, really does come in handy later on, especially when you've got a fairly, dangerous robot of your own. It helps that you have got something that, just a little bit more expertise. I think that's fair to say.
I'd agree. It's like things like the undercutter still spinning when the wheels off don't happen on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like that's the tuning. And imagine that the undercutter hits the floor and turns off when the wheel falls off. Completely different fight.
Yep.
You just can't account. You can't fake that kind of thing. It just comes from experience. And I for one was very happy to see the undercutter.
Also, they only
didn't
used
see
it
it at all
last year,
last
didn't they?
season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the wedge in a basement fight, I believe, against Valkyrie.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, they ran the undercutter against Charco in a different basement fight, but it was over so fast. And it's cool to see them really embracing. Not that the vert wasn't the right move for a lot of the opponents they had last year, but
just to see something different.
The undercutter's cool. Like crippling depression has been tearing up 30-pound stuff forever. It's like, guys, it's crippling for aggression. Like no one's brought this shape before of an undercutter to BattleBots. Like you got to use it. And I admit, I was talking with David before the Tracer fight, and I was like, run the vert. They're not invertible. Just flip them with the vertical. And he really wanted to use the undercutter, and it's his robot. He knows it better than me, and he was completely right. And he flipped him anyways.
Yeah, I'll say it worked, didn't it?
Gyroed over in the end, sort of the combination of the hit and the forces at play. Tracer went over.
Yeah, a 60-pound vertical has a lot of gyro to it, a lot of force in it. So it's you reap what you sow. They want the biggest vertical, and that's part of it. It's something we fought in Huges forever. Some of the little ones have had some pretty ridiculous weapons, and then as a result, they're just undrivable.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm hopeful though. They're both good robots, so they're both going to get their stuff together, I think.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I've seen enough of Tracer to know that when it does eventually connect with something, it's gonna do leave some
Yeah.
nasty marks. That's for sure.
For every 2019 death roll, there's a 2016 death roll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is true.
And the early Hydras were no better. They were pretty ugly.
I don't know. They were unique in their own way.
They were special.
Let's move on to Kraken versus Black Dragon, which I feel was an incredible fight, a great driving fight.
Yeah, really close.
Well, it was very close. I think a lot of people have kind of said online it should have gone to Kraken, and I'm not disagreeing. However, I think it's the judging criteria for me. I think that suits Black Dragon in this fight.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Black Dragon didn't control the fight, but they did the damage, and they did get a good couple of hits on Kraken, which tipped them over, which would have been in their strategy. So at the end of the day, they picked up the points where they needed to, and as a result, won. It could have gone either way. I feel like Kraken, for the most part, had Black Dragon's number, but
I think if Kraken had kept both teeth, the story may well have been different, because it's a very visual bit of damage, whereas Black Dragon losing one of the weapon belts, and I mean, they had redundancy on it, they kept spinning, but I think that may have swung it slightly in Black Dragon's favor. I'm not sure. I'm not a judge.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to be a judge. I do have to wonder how much you would have noticed Boxside, because watching it on the show, I didn't even realize live that Kraken's jaw was not closing for the back half of that fight. And similarly, I didn't realize the belt came off of Black Dragon. And those are both super consequential pieces of damage. I feel like if the jaw kept working, I don't even think it would have been close. Because that's exactly what Kraken wants to fight. I mean, you saw what they did to Ribbot last year.
Yeah, a nice flat top.
Absolutely what they want. So, I memean, fair play to Kraken. That's exactly the fight he wanted to have. And it's what it's designed to do. Bite the vert.
Bite the vert. And they did do, but it just didn't quite stop the vert. The vert kept going, and unfortunately they did a bit of dentistry for Kraken, which didn't help them. I think the judges do have monitors at the side of the arena, so that may have been where they would have seen the damage happen. I'm not going to comment too much on it, because I'll be honest, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
up to them.
Yeah, either way, it was a great fight between two well-driven and both teams execute their strategies to the best they could. I think it worked slightly better in Kraken's favor, but I'm not disappointed that Black Dragon won, if that makes sense.
It was a great fight, just slugfest. Well-tuned robots that don't die, and they just go at it and go at it. I love to see that Kraken took some hits right to the front of the jaw that held together this year. One who peeled it up. That's a big weakness solved if they can keep that sharp, keep it together. And they're getting right under Black Dragon the whole time, which is not easy.
Sliding in.
Easy.
Right in between the two.
They made it look easy.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, you look at Kraken now in 2020, you compare it to you look at the 2018 version, and when I first saw it, I thought this is a really cool looking machine, but it's never going to do anything. You look at it now and you think, with a decent run, this thing genuinely could win BattleBots.
There's a lot of people it can beat. And it's tough because it's, when it's fighting people like Black Dragon, you almost don't get to see that. But I feel like you put it up against someone, a little less tuned than Black Dragon. They've been building robots forever.
Yeah.
And imagine they take both belts. Different fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's worth saying, Judge Jason Bardis said that this was one of the best fights he's ever seen, in the history of robot combat.
It was
not
amazing.
sure I agree with it. It was a very good fight, but there's a better one coming up.
There's a couple of good ones this episode.
There was. Well, let's talk about your fight, Jonathan. How does it feel being the small one?
It was I know how everybody else feels when they're fighting me.
Because
I know how everybody else feels when they're fighting, and Ricky said the same for fighting Mammoth. It's like, what the hell am I supposed to do in that spot? And I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to hit it hard and break it. But he knows that. That's what it's designed to resist. it's not like Ricky's never thought about Mammoth getting hit before.
Yeah.
It's covered in the floppy wedgelets, and the floppy lifter is brilliant. Just takes all the hits. Like yeah. I know how everybody else feels, and I'm glad there's only one Mammoth out there, because it's a weird thing to game plan for.
For my 2 cents, I think you started quite well. I think you got a good couple of hits at the start, but then as things got on, just the more that Mammoth got into
Once
the fight,
it starts to get you in that corner.
Yeah, you couldn't get out. You were stuck in there.
With Jenny, that you'd put some flipping big holes in him, and in pretty vital places. As they said, like a couple of centimeters to the left, it would have been the weapon gone. Couple to the right, and the whole frame would have collapsed. So
it gives me hope.
Yeah.
If there's a rematch, like there is a path for us there. But I know he can make changes too to mitigate those risks. It's I didn't know it was going to happen going in. We had the aim for spinning down, and the thought was, when you watch that Nightmare fight with Mammoth, when Nightmare hits a tube, it goes through it, and then kind of throws itself backwards a little bit, and Mammoth uses that to escape. And we're just like, well, if we can use that to like go deeper, maybe we hit another tube. Like that was pretty much the depth of the strategy.
Yeah. Because
I don't think spinning up would have changed much. Like we're not the type of vertical spinner who flips and throws people really. And there's a lot of factors to it. We're approaching from a weird angle. We're not super fast. We don't have a wedge. And then the wheels kind of shock mount all the hits. So it's not like Bite Force where it can just brace itself against the floor. Like to throw someone upwards, I need to press the wheels downwards. And they're not great at that. And so, it's just kind of trying to plan for the unplanned for-able.
It was quite strange, like, seeing you get stuck in the arena as well, because obviously you have to be hit so precisely to get your wheel caught in the way it is, because obviously your wheels are so large. Yeah. Like, did you ever think that could have ever happened, or just?
I was like, there was some I was vaguely afraid of it, but I never really thought it would happen. Like, we've been up there before. Bronco threw us up there. With Gigabyte, it had us in the screws. And we usually seem to find a way out. But that was perfect. Like, the wheel was aligned perfectly, and they cut it, obviously. But after the fight, it took 6 or 7 people about 20 minutes to get it unstuck. It was like, because the pole hits the wall, right? And then the wheel flexes out because of that.
It'd have to like kind of prise out a little bit.
Exactly. So I have a great story about that. So in 2018, we show up at BattleBots, clueless and excited.
Yeah. And
257 pounds. So as part of the weight cut that we, had to make about the day before the Sub-Zero fight, Fred, the driver of Valkyrie, and Garrett, one of my teammates, take huge outside with all guts in it besides batteries. And they tip it over, and then they cut the pole down. And they tip it over, and they cut the pole down. And they cut it and cut it and cut it until it barely gets back up. And they say, okay, the poles are the right length now. Don't touch them. And that was just to find, a couple pounds to cut, because we were going nuts trying to find stuff. It's a little late to make it smaller once you're at filming. And since then, I have measured the length of that pole and recreated it
every time.
Huge. And that pole is 3 or 4 inches longer. We don't fit out. And that's my favorite, little butterfly effect thing. Is like, 2018 Huge wasn't overweight. 2020 Huge doesn't fall out of the arena right there.
Oh, no.
I mean, who knows? It's still, they were Mammothing very good. Like, they could have gotten us up in the screws. They could have gotten us stuck over the hammer or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of other paths to victory for Mammoth, and then vice versa. Maybe the next hit takes the chain. But that's robots. Like, that's what keeps me going.
It could have gone either. It genuinely could have gone either way. As I think they illustrated in their interview later on, the fact that you nearly took out their weapon belt could have changed the whole fight. You don't go out the arena. You go on and pull them pole from pole.
Right, and that's. I mean, I'm not saying I want a rematch as the kind of loser in the situation. It's just I genuinely think a rematch would be a completely different fight, because I know that they would have. They didn't know they were going to be front flipping everywhere. Imagine they're not front flipping. like their whole strategy is different if they're attacking in a different way. We'll be going for different stuff. We can change our robots to suit each other more. Like I think there's a real, a second fight would be totally different. I think it would be, maybe they beat us differently, maybe we win. Who knows?
Absolutely. I just want to talk about Mammoth backflipping all day because that was just what on earth was going on there. That is, it's a, for context out there, people, on TV you do see these robots and sometimes you think, oh yeah, they're not that big. Huge and Mammoth are bigger versions of everything else, but they're not that big. Mammoth is 6'4". It's taller than me. I'm a fairly, tall person.
And it's not just tall; it's long.
It's
and
big.
Wide.
It's a big thing. Okay.
If they want to work on it, they sit in it. Like this is not.
Yeah.
It's not Tantrum.
Oh,
it's not Minotaur.
God damn! It's just so ungamely, and I love it. And as much as it does pay me to see Jonathan Hughes losing, seeing Mammoth do its thing like that was so good. And
we had that thought too, also because my team out there was this year me, Garrett, and Don, and the other teammates Alex, Peter, and Maddie stayed home because of COVID reasons. But we the three of us were out there, and we're just like, everyone's gonna get to see what new Mammoth can do against us.
Yeah.
Damn it. because we're good friends with Ricky, so we'd seen some testing videos. He posted some stuff online. Like it was not the same Mammoth as last year.
It's another level.
And that was farther than we expected with the flipping, man. Like, and it just gets right back up.
I know, it just didn't care. It just did not care about what anyone was going to do to it. It was wonderful to watch, and God bless Mammoth for getting it right.
God,
in a year without the Olympic Games, at least we got to see the gymnastics, eh?
at least a good 5 or 10 feet up there, on the high jump. I also I wish there could be 10 mammoths. I want to see it fight everything. I want to see it against every single robot in there. Shredderator. I want to see it against Kraken. I want to see everything because it's gonna be good.
Yeah,
no
absolutely,
matter what.
Absolutely.
And also the tuning discussion from earlier.
Yeah,
Mammoth last year versus Mammoth this year. The you watch it try and self-rate against uppercut, and then you watch it self-rate against us.
It's a
they
different story.
know that robot now.
Yeah.
Well, two
and
teams
that's super valuable.
Absolutely. Two teams that didn't really know their robots, I think, going into this were Claw Viper and HiJinx. And I mean that in terms of they're fresh out the box. They've just turned up for their respective first fights with their respective heavyweights at BattleBots. And I mean, Claw Viper really shocked me how good it was. That thing just flew across the arena like it was, like it was nothing, and just put pressure on HiJinx from the word go.
This was a shocking fight, I think. I don't think many people expected Claw Viper to be as good as it is, and I think that's a shame because obviously the Claw Viper team are an offshoot of Warhawk. Oh God, we're back down the rabbit hole again. But yeah,
quite
this
the
is
family tree there.
We're trying to put it all together, and it's not happening.
But yeah, every time I look at it, it gets bigger. Yeah, Claw Viper with the big front wedge was something else, and HiJinx, they managed to get spun up, starting facing the wrong way so that they could get spun up. At one point, Claw Viper uses that back section like a stunt ramp. What was this fight? It was crazy, and it was brilliant, and not at all what we expected.
It was awesome. Obviously new robots, but both of them, experienced teams, proven designs. Kevin has a lot of 30 and 12 pound versions of Claw Viper, all coated in magnets, just like real Claw Viper is. And then HiJinx comes from the lineage, I think, of all of the dark. I forget which version it is, but there's a lot of 3 and 12 pound versions of undercutters, kind of that shape with the tail. So it was a fight of robots that, if it all works right, are something to watch for. And Claw Viper did it better. He lasted. He took the hits. But yeah, it was really cool. Just the speed. It was so. I can't get the word theatrical out of my head. Maybe there's a better word for it. But zooming around everywhere. The box rush. He wants to run back and get a run on him. Sure, he goes all the way across the arena, turns around and races back. I love that. I think that's so much better than just, nudging into somebody. Like it was so cool. And they got the grab in there. They had the pulverizer going on them. Like, it was such an awesome fight. And I mean, the weapon on HiJinx worked great. I think drive is the thing they can get sorted because they're
Watching Claw Viper do its thing around the arena as it did, considering it's a brand new machine, this season, very, very impressive as well. Like I said, I didn't really expect much out of it this season. It looks solid, but not much more than that. I'm very glad to be proven wrong. It was a really good performance, and they, again, clearly a guy who knows his bot quite well and just did his job.
I agree with the premise of what you were saying, though. That it really is like, it's not the most cobalt-looking robot. Like it's not, doesn't have the saw teeth and the really imposing, like it's gonna wreck you and rip you limb from limb look. But a robot that they know and that is that fast and that he knows how to drive is just as deadly.
Yeah, last season they did the Jenny Taft section where Hypershock did a sort of timed lap of this course, and I'd really want to see a race between Hypershock, Claw Viper, and some other speedy bots this season.
P1.
Because P1, yeah,
gotta get the race car in.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see it. I want to see the Grand Prix of robots.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a lot of fun. And Extinguisher, 35 miles an hour.
Yes.
I'm going ahead a little bit here, but if they can get that going.
Let's get to Extinguisher
in this episode.
Well, let's get to Extinguisher, shall we? God bless poor John. It wasn't much of a fight, I'll be honest. It didn't really go anywhere, but I have to say I disagree with them, the team, because I've watched this fight a number of times, and they hit the wall.
Mm-hmm.
They do turn around and they head towards Perfect Phoenix, and they do get hit by Perfect Phoenix, and then they die. Maybe that's me looking too much into it. I'm more than happy to trust the team's analysis, but this was.
Oh no, I've slowed down the footage to 0.25s, and yeah, they definitely move forwards towards Perfect Phoenix, and then get clouted.
But I could see that issue still happening from the hit.
Oh yeah,
Perfect Phoenix, because it hits hard.
And to be fair,
but also that was a problem. There was, and this was just test box pre-event stuff, but a few of those controllers were burning up just in the test box on people. I think one person blew one up on the bench in the pits, just because they were a known reliable part that people used for a long time. That's what drives Mammoth. That's what drove Hypershock last year, which worked great. And I think it was the most recent batch that was purchased right before filming had some issues. And then you saw that with Extinguisher, which sucks because that was setting up to be a great fight. Imagine throwing the hammer right down into the spinning blade. That would have been awesome. And it's a shame we didn't get to see it. But, I still say for John and for Tyler, you are looking at the next generation here a lot.
Yeah.
What Tyler can do as a builder is amazing, and then what John has been able to put together, still in high school.
Also, he's still a young guy, isn't he? He's still a very young lad.
18. I
I think he's headed into college now. I don't know. I've only talked with him a few times, but I'm continuously impressed. It's a full brushless hammer bot. I couldn't build that now, and he's out here building it as a teenager. It might take him a little more time to get it dialed in. It's still an amazing achievement.
Yeah, very impressive. Very, very impressive indeed. So, main event time. 2 unbeaten seasons at the start of last year. That wasn't going to happen this time. It was Witch Doctor and Hydra. Where do I begin with this? Hydra, for me, this is the fight that surprises me, because if you look at Kraken versus Black Dragon won on the damage aspect. I'm fairly sure. Whereas this fight, I would have expected to go to Witch Doctor for the same reason, because it did the damage to Hydra, and Hydra was kind of struggling towards the end. I'm surprised the judges went the other way with this one.
So BattleBots went to Facebook earlier today, I believe, and said that Hydra could still move,
Yes.
and that's why the count out stopped. I think what we saw on TV is not almost as accurate as what happened in real life. And so yeah, Hydra could move. It drove back to its starting square at the end, and yeah, so I think so. Is it me? Is the floor laid uneven? I believe I've heard it on purpose so that some robots can't get like the massive ground clearance advantage. I think I've heard that somewhere.
That's what I was hearing as well. And I think you noticed it with Fusion also. They were getting stuck on the floor as well. I think their wedgelets might almost be too good. I see what they're going for with Hydra with like the sea of them on the front.
Yeah.
I think it's the right move for Witch Doctor, who's, always been the kind of anti-wedgelet team.
I think that was the thing. Like it was struggling to move a little bit, but like they kept catching on the floor. Like that's what it looked like from when I was watching it. Like they would move forward a little bit and then they just catch the floor again, and they just couldn't get out that square.
I think they may have thrown either a drivetrain or a weapon belt at some point in the fight.
Yeah.
I think I saw something come out the back of that. I don't know whether that was Hydra or somebody else.
There's no way you can get through that fight unscathed.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if I was the ref, I might have counted out Hydra. Like, I'm not sure I count a minute of staying within the starting square as controlled movement without chasing someone. But for going to the judges, right? Exactly. What crab walking rule?
Yes.
But it's getting to the judges. I think part of it is like the visual, like seeing how on fire Witch Doctor was, almost accounts for more because it's so in your face. Whereas otherwise, they broke the tooth off the spinner. It still worked. The drive worked great. They self-righted 20 times.
Really well. Really.
It was doing all right, but it's just Hydra's. No wedgelets versus Hydra wedgelets. It's a tough match.
It's a shame because I thought after last season, Witch Doctor had kind of started to cure the magic smoke problem. Yes, okay, the season started not particularly amazingly against Shatter, I think it was last year, but they did pick up wins and they kept working throughout the entire fight. It was there was just an air of please don't go back to where things have come from before, because last season they were so good. Like,
I mean, the draw on anything from the I want to say brick in a washing machine effect.
Yeah, pretty much.
They had them trying to keep going with that, I think may have hindered them and shaken and done all sorts of horrible things on the inside. So hopefully it's not a return to sort of Witch Doctor's VFX. But
it's like Tombstone Rotator was a similar result.
Yeah.
Where once you get that imbalance,
everything starts going wrong.
Everything.
Yeah.
Because nothing's made for that. It's a level of energy so beyond, to be continuously shaken like that. Every shake is like getting hit.
Yeah.
You find stuff. Yeah. I don't know exactly what that was that burned up. I was assuming the weapon motors, but I've never seen that much smoke before.
I was talking to someone earlier and watching the fight, and we kept watching it back, and we were still wondering, like, was it a motor that was going up? Was it an ESC going up? I would love to know if the Witch Doctor team could get in touch. Let us know, because it was billowing.
I imagine they'll cover it in the fan. Not the fan. Show the wrong one.
It could even be batteries, because the draw as well, not just on the controllers and the motors, but maybe the batteries couldn't do that continuous bouncing draw.
Maybe
like just because it's drawing all that power to throw the robot around from the batteries.
Yeah.
Normally they get up to top speed and then it kind of settles because it just needs to beat the wind resistance.
Yeah.
Up there, you're spinning top speed, the robot's bouncing everywhere. It's all coming out of the batteries. So if they run separate packs, it could have been the weapon batteries or something like that. But they're as prepared as anybody in there.
Absolutely.
So I think they brought a couple Witch Doctors, got all the parts they need. I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll bounce back. There's no doubt in my mind that if you're going to turn up and try and win this time, which I think that's very clear that that's their aim, then you're going to arrive with at least another one, aren't they? So
yeah,
let's see. pretty much brings us to the end of the episode. But there is actually one very important question that I have to ask Jonathan before he goes. It's actually come from a good friend of mine, Joe. And Joe asks, did the two-headed Death Flamingo t-shirt make it on TV?
Oh.
The important
I
question.
was telling them about that. So, yeah, I do not believe I wore the two-headed Death Flamingo shirt on camera at any point. So what I did, for everyone who's out of the loop, right before filming was when they released the two-headed Death Flamingo shirts. And I was like, yes, I need at least one of these. It's obnoxiously pink. Like, the photos do not do it justice.
Listen.
It is eye-searingly pink. So immediately, first day at BattleBots, I wore the shirt because I want everyone to see it.
Good man.
And there was at least 4 or 5 production people who were in love with it. And I was like, you tell them to let this thing in next year if they want to come. Because I don't know, it's up to them. There's a million moving parts. COVID might not be over. Who knows? Maybe Discovery will cancel it. Who knows? I hope not. And then they pulled me for the interview where every team captain goes and meets with Chris and Kenny. Because, before the season starts, Chris and Kenny, they just want to know what's up. What's new with the robot? That's with, like, the little kid who dressed as me for Halloween last year. That's where I kind of mentioned it offhand. And then that spun into them mentioning it, them reaching out, talking to the family, getting the photo, and, getting it on the show, which was awesome. And I wore the shirt for that meeting, and Kenny loved it. So
excellent.
Pressure's on, Joe.
Yeah, we'll
Kenny loves two-headed Death Flamingo shirt. You gotta make it happen.
Don't we all?
But no, I don't think I got it on camera. We've got enough huge shirts to cover at least a week's worth without doing laundry. So just swapping as they.
That's
get
fair
dirty.
enough. That's fair enough. Anyway, that brings us to the end of BattleBots episode 2. I have to say, Jonathan, it's an absolute pleasure having you on, and thank you very much for your time. It's been a joy talking to you.
No problem. It's been fun. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Well, myself and Jevan will see you next week. But until then, I've been Sam Elliott 64.
I've been WorldofWoodrow.
I've been Jonathan Schultz from Team Huge.
And myself and Jevan will see you next week for episode 3. We'll see you then.